All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Summoning Hour podcast. We're finally back at this syntax. It's been a few weeks now since doing it on time, and
It has.
we've suffered plagues, and now we're getting into player changes. So it's kind of the lull, but all the excitement's kind of done, and we're just waiting for the new Pro League to start.
Yeah, it has been one heck of a hiatus. Both me and you have been fighting off the old coronavirus.
Right? Like the heart of it, man. Like Microsoft
Uh,
telling everyone work from home for the next 2 weeks, school district closing down, saying everyone teach your kids from home for the next 2 weeks.
I'm gonna have to side with Elon. I don't know if anyone here follows Elon Musk on Twitter, but I do because it is just pure enjoyment. Everything he tweets. So,
That's true.
he tweeted I think yesterday. He was like, "This whole coronavirus panic is dumb." I was like, "Thank you." And some people were like, "Well, us mere mortals have to fear stuff like that." But I don't. Everyone else is tweeting like them pictures of them like buying out all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer and everything from Costco. I don't. I just think I think it has been blown way out of proportion. And there are people saying there's even conspiracy theorists out right now saying that like there was like coronavirus camps in Washington.
What?
Aren't you in Washington? Is that true? Do you know
Yeah,
anything about that?
I'm in Washington, but like, no, there's no camps like that.
Oh dear God. Maybe this whole coronavirus is just one big promotion for the release of um, Outbreak, or
Yeah.
what was the new Rainbow Six Quarantine?
Oh, there you go.
So this is just one big
Ubisoft.
promotional hype train for the release
Ubisoft
of Rainbow Six
really
Quarantine.
pulling it over on top of Fortnite with their creative marketing campaign.
Yeah.
No, it's scary. Like, I so I've been working from home since Wednesday, but if you look up on Twitter pictures of like downtown Seattle and like Pike Place Market, like our biggest tourist attraction in all of Seattle, and there's like no one, no cars anywhere. I mean, it's crazy.
What's up with Washington? Is that like ground zero for the coronavirus? Is that why Washington has been getting so much like coronavirus publicity? Is
Uh, so it was the first location in the states to really announce. I think it was the first one in the states to announce that it had tested positive. We were the first fatality from coronavirus, and then it's exploded here because like one of the like elderly care facilities, hospice care facilities, had like a ton of the patients there sick with it, and then like a ton of visitors were coming in and out of there. So like that whole county and district is now under like super lock and key, even though like school districts to the north and south of us aren't closed down. But yeah, Washington State just kind of exploded out of nowhere in the coronavirus news, and we get a whole bunch of international travel anyways, so that doesn't help.
Yeah. For those who don't know, the coronavirus. If you don't know why this the whole this has been dangerous, what the coronavirus does is it's just a version of the flu, but what it does is it causes severe respiratory distress, and pretty much essentially starts to make your lungs not work very well, and therefore it can be fatal. It can put you into respiratory arrest, stuff like that. I think there's two versions of it. There's like the SARS, which is the something respiratory syndrome, and then there's the MERS, which is the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. Um, Let me see what I forgot what SARS stands for.
It stands for bad shit that you don't want.
Severe acute respiratory syndrome, and that's what the version is that's going around the coronavirus is SARS, is the acute respiratory syndrome. And so if you have the flu And I'm not talking about just like a basic cough and basic flu stuff, but like if you start to severely like have trouble breathing, go to the hospital. But other than that, don't freak out if people around you are getting sick. Stop the paranoia.
It's still
The mass
wintertime.
hysteria.
Flu still happen. Like, take care of yourselves. And that's about the level of pro league news that we have. In that there is nothing. Like, there is nothing to talk about. So here's a friendly coronavirus PSA.
Yeah. With that being said, Pro League, there's not much going on with Pro League. We're still in mid season since the wrap up of Invitational. We still got what, 2 weeks left until the startup of the second half of Pro League. So there are a couple Pro League changes that went on. By changes, I mean roster moves, right? So we'll start off with Team Reciprocity. Nyx and Retro got benched, aka they got kicked off the team, or they left, whatever it may have been. And then they picked up Biologic, the former TSM member, and then they also picked up Slashug. They bought him out from LG, which means Slashug left LG, and in doing so, they picked up Jarvis. So now Jarvis is on LG, which is good. You know, those are two players, Biologic and Jarvis, that I'm really glad to see back in Pro. They both deserve to be back in Pro League. Biologic, if you guys didn't know Biologic, he never got kicked off the TSM. He actually left due to personal being. He had to deal with this whole accusatory thing. This woman accused him of sexually assaulting her, and he had to go through all that and lawyered up, and turns out he didn't do it, and so he's free of that charge. Yes, so he was looking to get back into competitive, and was doing Challenger League with Tomas and them, and then he quit because he was it was in the works of talking with Reciprocity to join Rec. So so now he's back in Pro League, which is really good. And then Jarvis, poor guy, you know, he got dropped off of he was a former Dark Zero mode. And then he got dropped from Dark Zero, and then he's been doing his damnedest to get teams to get back into Challenger League, and he actually played for TSM for a little bit, and brought them to victory over in DreamHack Montreal. Was it DreamHack Montreal? I think that's what it was, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Took them to victory, yes. And then all of a sudden he gets kicked off of TSM for God knows what. And then he went back to his whole trying to get teams to get back into the Challenger League, because he's just a hungry player. He wants to be in Pro League, and he deserves to be. So it's good to see him being picked up by a Pro League org. And I think that's about it when it comes to roster changes. Yeah, I think that's it. So
no, I mean, there's been no real movements from anyone else. So I mean, I have to wonder what Tempo Storm's really doing right now. LG picking up Jarvis, like, that'll be good, but is that enough to really bring them out of the middle of the pack? I don't know. I don't think so. And then nothing from Evil Geniuses made a couple of changes just before the break. It was in like the last couple weeks of the actual Pro League matches, but I don't think it really did much for them. I think they probably only had like one, maybe two matches with the new.
It's about Tempo Storm.
Did I mean Tempo Storm?
Yeah, is that who you were talking about?
No, Evil Geniuses.
Oh, okay. Let's see. I don't think they did anything, but oops.
But I mean, those are the two teams I'm most concerned about not doing enough during this downtime, and thinking that they have enough faith in the roster that they have to pull them out of like the bottom performances that they've had for the last 2 seasons. Um, I hope to see more from them. Those orgs are like long-standing and very reputable, competitive groups. So I'm curious why they're having such a hard time getting those competitive rosters with them.
Oh, EG, they kicked did we know that already?
Yeah, they did. They did a couple of things.
They kicked Gotcha and picked up Spades.
When was that? Do you know?
According to ESL, it was on January 20th.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I knew that they had done something recently, but yeah, Gotcha in Spades. Yeah. So that happened. So I'm seeing that on the 27th from Liquipedia. So that might have been a couple of weeks worth of change or of gameplay, game days to have gone through with Spades, but nothing noticeable was going to happen in those matches, and I can only hope that the quality of their scrims have really started paying off. Like, there's been no real analyst changes, no real coach changes, outside of TSM's coach, Bagel going, but like outside of that, there hasn't been, at least not externally, a lot of conversation about what EG and Tempo Storm are going to do to become competitive again, because like they're just kind of limping along, and it makes me sad to see that, and it makes me think that there's a Challenger League team that's more hungry and more determined than these teams that are just kind of satisfied being in that bottom step.
Yeah, and I think actually, Bagel got picked up as a coach for E United, so he's now their coach. Tempo looks like, so Filthy left, and then they picked up Mark. I think we might have talked about that.
Yeah, we talked about that one. And so yeah, like Bagel going from TSM to E United makes sense now. It's like, okay, picked up by E United, bought out of a contract, whatever. However that works, like E United's gonna absolutely benefit from what Bagel was able to coach in TSM, but also everything he was able to learn from TSM, even if he wasn't like a super active part of why they won or why they did so well at the Invitational. So regardless of Bagel's overall impact on TSM, United's going to absolutely benefit. And hopefully that'll push them above Reciprocity and keep a tighter race between like SSG, DZ, and TSM.
Okay.
I don't like the pickup of Jarvis by LG, and then all the MIA kind of moves and communications about Tempo Storm and EG. It just makes me leave a question mark, and it's like, how much are you really looking to change in that next season coming up? With just given the performances by those teams, like Tempo Storm, EG were 1 win, 1 draw, and 5 losses. LG was 1 win, 3 draws, and 3 losses. Like, that kind of performance tells me you need to step up the change that's going on. You need to change something, and if they're not changing things internally, they need to change things with like very visibly visceral changes that are observable from the outside. So cut these 3 or 4 players kind of thing. Like, our roster doesn't make sense with these people, or picking up some of those strong Challenger League players. Like, make a move. Like, this is your time to be making that move.
Yeah. And it's good to see that teams are actually starting to dip down into the Challenger League and pick up people from there. You don't see that too often. Usually, teams in North America kind of switch in between each other. They kind of keep to themselves, the players. But it's good to actually finally see teams start to dip down to Challenger League and grab players out of there, because there are some damn good players in Challenger League that deserve to be in Pro League. So it's good to see.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine that some of those teams that you're going to be seeing cherry picked from, like we've talked about it a little bit about potential college players being picked up, and knowing like that Akron is participating in Challenger League um, scrims, as well as just trying to participate in Challenger League as well. Like that's a big move. Like, and if any of those teams are successful, that's doubly successful in that they're practicing for the college based leagues, but then they're also looking at that professional environment as well,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes them noticeable.
There are a lot of college teams that are starting to try and step out of the boundaries of collegiate and actually try and delve more into um, the hardcore competitive scene. Um, you know, back with my original A&M roster, we tried our hand at U.S. national quals. We did Challenger League quals. We did Go For Cups. Anything you can name. We tried it, and in some we got pretty far. And I think that's what um, kept us a step ahead of all of the other competitive college teams, is because we were getting that experience, that outside experience from other, from higher level gameplay, and coming back to CR6 and using that knowledge that we gained from there. And honestly, like I highly recommend a lot of college teams start doing like Go For Cups, do open qualifiers, even though you're not going to get any in those qualifier cups, still do them. It costs you $0. There's nothing to lose, and you play teams that are better than you. You get that knowledge and that experience of playing these higher level teams, and you can take that and use it in collegiate.
And I mean, it's not like in collegiate you're going to have a huge grasp on all the players at all the time, because I mean, people graduating, people dropping out of teams, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, you might have your collegiate scrim partners, but like those could change season to season just based off of availability. And when you look at like CR6, which has 140 teams, and you're going through this 4 week mixer of playing anyone and everyone, you don't know who you're going to get. You might as well be playing a stronger opponent in a league that doesn't matter, while you can anticipate that you're going to get a few lemons in your collegiate league right now.
Yeah, and it'll really it'll shine some light on how the game is actually played at a high competitive level too, because I was watching, one of the players from another team was showing me a VOD of them playing against another team. I'll leave them nameless, but in their comms, they were playing against my friend's team, right? And I was hearing their comms, and they were like, this is so frustrating. Like, all of a sudden I see a drone, and as soon as I shoot the drone, this guy comes and kills me. Like, this, it's dumb. Like, why would you do that? Blah blah blah. It's like, that's how the game is played. Your entry fraggers follow the drone in, and they spot you and you're dead. Like, that's how the game is played. And they were just baffled at like all these, like, pretty common things that are done in competitive level play. And obviously, like, it was pretty obvious that these guys were new to competitive level, or I hope they and if you start to go, if you venture out of your comfort zone, you'll see these things, you'll be able to bring those tactics back.
Yeah, I mean, I think about what perfect R6 play looks like with some of the utilities, and it all just comes down to timing and how much you trust that other person beside you. Like, as soon as they do the right thing and you have a player who knows what to do in that situation, it should be absolutely lethal every moment, every play that's being made.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you think about what that looks like in a moment to moment, play by play, like round after round, it should look like just people like who have hacks on, like wall hacks, aim hacks, everything, just because they're reacting immediately to brand new information, and if they can
Yeah.
anticipate everything between them and that action, it's just going to be a beautiful play.
And also, the best thing, they're the best ones are when you're watching a team and and you hear like, you know, these guys aren't even droning. Like I haven't seen a single drone. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, you can you can drone without pinging, and you don't have to. These guys are sitting on site waiting for drones to come through the door. If you know where the site is, you don't have to send your drone into its death. Like, why?
Right.
That's not what you do. The point is to keep those drones alive because it's another information gathering utility. So,
I think it's still funny. Like even I'll go into a pub match and you just see like people drive their drones, and it's just like, oh, I spotted everyone, got it, good job. It's like, okay, good on you. You've got yourself some.
It's like in the round starts, you're like, okay, well, okay, where is everyone? I don't know. I just know that, I just know they have a dock. Well, that doesn't help me. that just.
So you had mentioned that there were some Challenger League changes as well.
Yes. So, for season 11 in North America, Challenger League, there will be no promotions and there will be no relegations, which means no Pro League teams will be going down to Challenger, and no Challenger League teams will have the opportunity to come into Pro League. And they're kind of putting a lock on it for this season, and that's really unfortunate. It's good for the Pro League players, obviously, because they won't get relegated, but for the CL teams, it's really unfortunate because that means they don't have the opportunity to make it into Pro League. On the other hand, because they're doing this, they are going to double the Challenger League prize pool from $23,000 to $56,000. So the whole prize pool is going to be good as an incentive for a lot of orgs to stay inside Challenger.
Yeah, I mean, it makes do. Like, and basically what it does is says, okay, we need to keep you here for at least 2 seasons, the one you just did and this next one coming up. So here's a little incentive to maybe a little front loaded to stick around. Now, if they could keep that prize pool for Challenger League going forward, that'd be kind of insane.
Yeah, that would be really good.
That's what I would hope for. I mean, if they're going to make this change that's only monetary and only like upfront like this, that it should be kept for longer term than that, just to be like, thanks for dealing with our shenanigans that we didn't tell anyone about and didn't even hint at. Like, that level of league change when it's your primary esports focus and your primary feeder, it's a little crazy to think that that's all they have to say about it.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know like what their reasoning behind closing off relegate or promotion or relegations was. I have no idea. But actually, come to think of it, did they increase the amount of teams that can be in Pro League? I thought they talked about that. So did they reverse that?
Last
they reversed it
from the 6th Invitational. They were just saying that there was going to be 2 more teams added to each division. So
did they bring those 2 teams up and then close it off? Not
that I've seen. I have no idea. Like everything, like Siege.gg, Liquipedia, none of them are indicating if there was 2 additional teams added.
All right. Yeah, and from what I saw when I was looking everything up, I didn't see any teams. I guess they reversed that. and then kept the Challenger League teams the same.
I'll be interested in checking back on that and seeing if there's been any official word from Ubisoft on if they've made any changes to what they announced at the Sixth Invitational. I would imagine that would have been bigger news if they had. But you never know. I mean, maybe it's something that they wanted to keep quiet.
Yeah, probably. So do you have any prevalent information on collegiate?
Not a whole lot. So like we're in, let's see, week 3 of the Collegiate R6 League. We are in week 4 of the or going into week 5 of the CEA Siege League, and we are into week 3 of the CRSL invite season. Now, unfortunately, CRSL has not posted in an easy to find way, or any way, as far as I can tell, to see how weeks 1 and 2 have gone for teams. And outside of knowing what groups people are in, that's all I can tell you about their league right now. They have a number of streams, so make sure you check out their Twitch channel for all of their streams. They do end up streaming all of their matches, and they will log all of the VODs to their YouTube channel. So check out twitch.tv/space_productions for the CRSL League streams, and they've been quite active announcing them. And so they've been doing the Invite League as well as the Open League streams. So go in there, hop at them, because the Invite League is just the creme de la creme. The two teams who were invited from winning last season and the runners up, as well as 2 teams from DreamHack LA, or no, DreamHack Anaheim, who qualified here as that, but then the top 4 teams from 7 other trials during the season. So these are the ones who have pulled through in kind of clutch or kick mentality in these trials. So these ones are good. The number of teams stand out. So we have, I've already announced all of the teams and everything. So if you're familiar with this CR6, you have some recognizable names there as well. So that's good. Good company to be talking through. I'm still in the middle of making the spreadsheet I mentioned last time, where I want to take the teams that are in all 3 leagues and just kind of call out who's doing well and how well they're doing across the board, and seeing if there's any distinct performance differences based off of maybe opponents that they've played in different leagues. So there's at least that. Let's see. Any teams I really want to call out? No, I mean, just listen to Group B in Collegiate Rainbow Six League. Charger Blue, University of Texas San Antonio A, Longhorn Gaming, Texas A&M Maroon, Arizona State Gold, LSU, Louisiana State University of Lafayette, and the AFK Experience. I don't know. We talked about them, and I forgot what school that was.
Arizona. It was the other Arizona team.
Northern Arizona. That's right.
Yeah.
Northern Arizona. So, like, again, these groups are region based, so of course they're going to be tight knit. But like, for me, that just screams the group of death. Like, I do not want to be in Group B. The South, I recognize this in Heroes of the Dorm and early TESPA stuff with like Overwatch and everything. The South is just a straight up scary region, period. For esports, collegiate esports, the South is just scary.
Because there's nothing better to do other than play video games.
Right. Well, I mean, you would think you could say the same thing about the schools out here in Washington, where it's just raining 90% of the days and cloudy and just miserable, and you don't want to go outside anyways. But as soon as you leave California and depending on the game, Oregon, like, Washington just kind of sucks. Like, we've had a hot spot with an Overwatch team, but that's about it. So yeah, like those groups are exactly what you would expect. the level of competition is going to be great. I mean, like I said, the Southern Division Group of Death, hands down. Let's see. I can't even make heads or tails of Group. I'm going to call them Group C, but it's the other side of the bracket. So, Akron, FIU, Wisconsin Red, Auburn, Tennessee, University of Tennessee, Knoxville, Bulin Bearcats. I don't even know what school that is. Virginia Commonwealth University, and then Elon. I don't know if that's Elon University or just someone goofing on Elon Musk.
Did you say Bulin Bearcats?
Yeah, BOLLING or IN apostrophe Bulin.
BOLLIN.
BOOLIN. Yeah. And actually, you know what? Here's an interesting thing. So, Akron, Wisconsin, Tennessee, like, that's got to be kind of like your northern division. But then you think about this, the second Group B, ASU, so Arizona State, University of Utah, Colorado, Northern Arizona University, University of California, Irvine, Texas Tech University, and CGC, don't know, and University of Texas San Antonio, another South heavy division. That's scary that there's so many strong southern state teams. Like, that's from Arizona over to, I mean, you could go all the way over to Florida if you really wanted to call that part of the South proper, but like,
honestly, I feel like a lot of the dominant teams come from the bottom half of the U.S. Like,
yeah,
you get like the bottom half of California into Arizona. I don't know about Mexico, but kind of skips over, and then you got Texas, and then goes over to Florida, right, or Louisiana, and then Florida. So like all of it kind of rides the bottom of the U.S. Like all the strong teams, which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, absolutely, and like it makes sense. And it's just it's crazy. I mean, when you think about Texas as like a football town, as the demographic moves away from football being their thing, it's just like football trends downwards with younger kids anyways. Like, what are they latching onto? Football. And it's just like, okay, I could see Texas just being like, okay, esports is the new football. And you see that with their infrastructure being built out, both in education and as well as professional. And it's like, it's going to be a real deal scary powerhouse.
Well, the thing about football in Texas is that football doesn't ever decline. Esports is rising, but football is still up there. Football has not moved. It's still always. Let me tell you something. As a Californian, now a Texan, there's multiple high schools in this town that have football stadiums that are bigger than most college stadiums I've seen in California.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
Right.
Like multi-million-dollar like high schools with these multi-million-dollar football stadiums that are more fancy than any college football stadium I've seen in California.
I believe it. I mean, football generates a stupid amount of money. And when you start sending your teams off to professional teams and it makes all that difference, man, money just comes pouring in. So, I mean, CRSL looks like it is stacked competition, and I'm really excited to see some of these matches and just to see how these groups are playing out. But we will have to wait. The good news, the really cool thing is, if you go onto the CRSL website, colleger6.com, and you look up Season 2, if you can navigate to Season 2 teams, group teams, if you go over each group, you can click on the Matches tab, and you can see the entire schedule, week to week, who is playing who for the entire 7-round group stage. And it's like, yes, finally, I can at least start looking forward to, hey, this matchup's coming up. This is what I would expect to be a good match. Maybe try and check out the stream. Um, and as they get more understanding of being able to say this team's streaming a few weeks in advance, that's just good straight up production work and will never be missed. If that feature goes away, like if that feature goes away, I get sad again.
Let's hope not.
Oh, you can click on each of the matches, and it looks like there's a tab for match details as well as attachments. So they might start attaching VODs to those. Yes, please. More data. CEA, they have a great little setup for their spring league, both in the invite standings as well as the open league. But in the invite standings, they have a great set of data so that you can look at each division. So Galahad, Lancelot, Percival, and Mordred. Each division only has 4 teams, but you can start seeing teams, their abbreviation, round differential, number of matches that they've played, all that stuff. So relatively up to date. Only a few teams have recorded their 4th match, but actually it looks like some of those tabs are just not up to date. But the cool part is that they have a full list setting where you see all the teams and how they're all stacked up. It's ordered by points and then round differential. So one thing that's interesting to see, University of Akron, last season's Triple Crown threat, and strong teams in the other leagues, they're actually sitting at 3rd place with only 8 points. They've played all 4 matches. They have a huge round differential of 27, but it means that they haven't secured all the points that they should have coming from that top echelon team. Rochester Institute of Technology is actually leading the way at 10 points and with a round differential of 29.
Oh wow!
But it gets even cooler because then they have a tab for cross-division results as well, so you can see who's doing the best across the divisions. Now, right now, all of these teams have only played 1 match at most outside of their division, but there you see University of Akron leading the way with the highest round differential of 12 and a win, tied with Carnegie Mellon University, who has the same 3 points, 12 round differential. But those are the only 2 teams that are there. And if you really want to get interesting, Rochester Institute of Technology, Team A, the ones who are leading the charge overall, they only secured 2 points and have a round differential of 5. So it's not quite the same clean win, and it was close. So it's not an easy win for them. So it's an interesting perspective to be able to say, hey, RIT may be dominating in the Percival division, which they are, like 8 points to, I guess if you take into account that this tab's not fully updated, they are still well and ahead of everyone else. Like, the other teams are struggling with each other. Rochester's just kind of hanging out in the lead. So there's tons of information to be pulling in here. Carnegie Mellon University, 2nd place overall, lower round differential than Akron, sitting at 3rd, but more points. Granted, they have played their 5th match, and Akron and even RIT haven't recorded their 5th match, so we're getting some spotty results, but at the same time, it's saying how close all of this is. So the CEA has done a great job selecting their 16 teams for the Invite League, and how they all qualified, I don't quite remember. So this when you think about the 16 teams that are in, or not 32 teams that are in CRSL, but then you look at this and you see some of the same names, not all of the same names, definitely not all the same names, but you have a pretty tight competition, a nice bell curve of points and everything. So it's looking pretty good of how they've laid out their groups. So no one's really a group
That's good
of death at this point.
That's good. Okay.
Yep. And then as we look over at Collegiate R6, guess who's sitting at the top?
Who's that?
Akron. They're right there, 3-0. They're tied with Texas Tech University and CU Boulder Black. All three have 3 wins. Their opponents' win rates are 2/3, so they've won 2, lost 1. They were so all 3 of these teams and their 3 opponents going into week 3 were 2-0 teams. So now it's basically confirmed that they are looking at winners play winners, losers play losers for the next week's schedule. So you are starting to see that creation of a bell curve to really
separate all the teams.
Yep.
Yeah.
And even then, CU Boulder Black, as much as they have 3 wins, their overall win percentage is lower than Texas Tech and Akron Zips. I'm guessing it's based off of map wins. So if you look at it, it looks like Akron and Texas Tech are the only truly undefeated teams. 100% map win rate, 100% match overall win rate as well. So only 3 teams that are in that 3-0 with the highest opponent win rates as well. So that's why CU Boulder Black's up there, even though they've dropped a map. UBC Gold and Mississippi State, they're also 3-0, but they have overall lower opponent win percentages, even though they are still 100% win rates on their own matchups. So still a lot of perfect teams. Just looking at their opponents, you start seeing that they played lesser opponents overall. And CR6 keep going with the massive tournament, 140 teams this time around. I think they learned their lesson about 214 teams from last season. And with their added efforts of trying to get these matches streamed, or at least some of them, that's probably a good sacrifice overall.
Okay.
A lot of the teams that you would expect are there in that top 20, top 18. 18 are all the 3-0 teams. So Longhorn Gaming, Grand Canyon University, Clemson, Northeastern, University of Texas San Antonio, Northern Arizona, CSULB, UCF, A&M Maroon, UBC Gold, CU Boulder Black. Like, I could prattle off more of these names, and they just get more and more familiar, probably down through the top 50. And then some of them start falling into obscurity.
I feel like for the next at least season or 2, all these teams are going to be similar, or all the top teams are going to be similar. I don't think we're going to see any changes in names here pretty soon. But once the players start filtering out as they graduate, we start getting new players into other teams and other universities. Maybe the flow of teams at the top will change.
Yeah, I think that we're looking at probably. Siege alone is 3 years old, going on 4, and the collegiate scene's really two strong seasons old after this season, and so you could probably see a good strong rotation in the next year or 2 from a lot of these schools, because CSULB and even Texas A&M, notable teams the last 2 seasons, people have got to be rotating out soon, if they haven't already.
Yeah.
I just hope what it overall means when you start seeing new school names popping up is just that there's more esports support from the collegiate infrastructure that says esports is that next main way that we want to kind of build our reputation, and start taking that more seriously with scholarship, real training regimen, real facilities available, real opportunity there.
Yeah, I really think that more colleges need to start recognizing esports as a varsity sport. So these teams, can do what's necessary in order to, play in their sport properly instead of having to wait until, 11 o'clock at night. My A&M guys just played a match the other day at 11 p.m. because it's the only time that the schools could play at. So, um,
Yeah, it was a big
it just
conversation at the conference I was at, even just by proxy of Twitter and just a few people who were at the conference. Like, it would be so nice to have a known schedule for this stuff, because like this conference, the Collegiate Esports Expo, was moved to be closer with PAX, but PAX was early or was later last year, and so they moved both of the events forward, which then kind of stomped on a couple of teams' availability to come out and participate, because they were doing their college conference league, as well as like they already had some other events planned at that time, so other LAN events that they were going to go to, so they couldn't even come out and support something that's actually it was a really impressive showing for the CEX Expo. Um, so yeah, I mean, collegiate scheduling is just a huge question mark right now, and no one really knows how to organize it.
Yeah, but if it was recognized as a varsity sport, then they could take time out of their day and play the match at a reasonable time.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I mean, I wouldn't mind being able to watch a game or two while I'm at work. That
Yeah.
would be a great way to spend my lunch. People probably get mad I'd take one of the conference rooms though. Big 16-inch
Put it up on
LCDs.
the conference room TV.
Yep. Oh, I've done that before. It feels so good to do that. Anyways, so there's a lot of really good teams participating across all three leagues. So whether you're a fan of one, you like the streamers, you like the production, the timing of it, there's so much content for you to be just nomming on. Like, anyone who's interested in collegiate Rainbow Six, there's plenty of content just to be enamored with and start following along with some of these teams and players, which I highly recommend. I did mention CRSL's Twitch stream. Let me mention the other ones. CR6 is twitch.tv/college or collegiate R6. So COLLEGIATER6. And then CEA is twitch.tv/CEA_siege. And they stream basically whenever teams are available. So I think CR6 actually has a more standardized broadcast schedule, and so does CRSL. They announced the Open League stream as well as the main league stream each night in their Discord. So if you're not in any of those Discords, I highly recommend it as well, just so that you can get this laid out well on social media. So embed yourself in that community and get involved. That would be nice.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I mean, these teams are going at it. We're early in the formation of stuff, and unfortunately, until there's more match information, it's a little bit kind of like last season, where it's hard to really say how these matches win or how dominant a team really is. The biggest talking point is just something that we kind of glanced over, was Akron showing up in third overall in the CEA league, but at the same time, they're dominant in their division. So they are first place there. They haven't played their fifth match. It'll probably see them in that first, second, third seed spot even after they play that match.
Okay.
But that's college. There was some discussion about how these leagues were going to take into the new changes coming in. So whether or not they were going to be rotating theme park into their league, or whether or not Cali and Wamai were going to be available. Well, it's turning into be a league by league decision. Now, because Pro League is letting them come out of quarantine with the start of a new season, collegiate is all three of these leagues are already partially progressed into their season. Now, CR6 is going to allow the new ops after phase 1, but they're not taking theme park into the pool. They'll take it in after the season. But CRSL is not going to allow either. So no new map, it's not a new map, it's just the reworked theme park. And they're not going to allow Calais and Wamai at all because they'll be halfway through their season. So that's their CRSL quotes it being about competitive integrity and introducing a new map as well as 2 new operators halfway through the group stages. They felt like it would compromise that competitive integrity and ask too much of the players to just be willing to kind of throw out the window with so much change. So totally respect.
It just kind of adds a layer of consistency to the league, and there's no reason to, add another variable into the fray mid-season. So I respect them for that decision.
Yeah, absolutely. I unfortunately wasn't able to track down what CEA was going to plan on doing. They might have actually already had it spelled out in their player handbook, so I could dive into that and see if that's the case. But
if I remember correctly, I think all of the leagues are kind of in agreement with they're going to keep, if an operator is quarantined, they're going to keep it quarantined to the end of the season. So I wouldn't be surprised if CEA and CR6 were the same. So I'm pretty sure CR6 was the same way back when I was playing when it was when Lion was in quarantine and Nomad and
they try and reflect the pro
Cade was in quarantine, because I think they came out of quarantine mid-season. I think that they were still banned till the end of the season, if I remember so.
That does sound right. So it's just an interesting predicament that these collegiate leagues are being put into, in that they want to align with Pro League as much as possible. They're participating in Challenger League as much as possible, which is very much the same as Pro League. So they're trying to have that much rapport and respect for it, but at the same time, the schedule is the schedule, and they have to think about their own product and their own league and trying to make it as fair as possible or as good content as possible. And when you throw something that's going to throw the meta completely out of whack, not in great timing, like that's a huge decision to make.
It is.
But they all seem capable of making those decisions. I mean, CR6 organizing hundreds of teams over the last 2 seasons, CEA having a highly competitive league, and CRSL working the production channels and the data channels like crazy. They all have their own secret sauce to their league. Now, if they could combine all their forces and become a super league, they could just take over Challenger League for all I care.
That'd be the day.
Just force collegiate to be the Challenger League.
just mold or mesh into them, absorb them.
Oh, could you imagine a collegiate branch and then like the Challenger branch, and then it's like the 2 sides of a 64 team tournament?
Oh, that'd be funny.
Oh, that'd be filthy. And then, I mean, you relegate the winners up. I like it. Mega off Pro League season.
That'd be good. That'd be pretty good.
Oh, man, that sounds exciting. I mean, like, college is not the path to pro right now, right? Like, maybe as like a content streamer, you can make that move, or as an analyst, we've seen that happen. But no one thinks collegiate esports players that path to pro. And so like how that changes, when that changes, if that changes, that's an interesting conversation. And like Challenger League just lends itself to being like, where do you fit in with collegiate, or where does collegiate fit in with you, as opposed to just looking at that top tier pro scene.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think collegiate might get some more reputation if it got some more visibility. uh when I say visibility, I don't mean like participation. I mean um like recognition from like actual pro league players. And I know actually for a while Yeti supported collegiate R6 um back when CR6 was the only league. I know Yeti, constantly retweet and tweet out stuff about CR6. So that was good visibility for the collegiate league as well.
Mark my words, Ubisoft will be picking a preferred collegiate league at some point. I won't even try and fathom a guess, but I will say that if CR6 is, or not CR6, if R6 is as popular as it is and it's still growing, they would be missing an opportunity to grab a whole nother aspect of people who are already in tune with R6 esports.
And actually, Siege has reached its according to the Steam charts, at least, it has reached its highest overall player base it has ever had. Now, at the same time, those numbers are probably inflated because it doesn't take into account multiple accounts per person, right?
Sure.
So, but still, it has reached its peak player count, and that could also be due to the anticipation for the new season. Historically, games that have multiple expansions, usually player counts, will rise before and just as an expansion releases, and then towards the end it delves down, and then it rises again when a new expansion comes out, and it's just how it happens. But still, we've out of all the years Siege has been in business and all the expansions, this is the highest it's ever been. So that means it's growing, at least somewhat.
I mean, it's really stepped up between production, between its involvement with Challenger League, between even just thinking about its own roadmap. Like announcing 2 years of roadmap still gets my game developer standing applause kind of thing. Like that's not easy to do, and it's not a decision that anyone takes lightly to say this is what we're going to do for the next 2 years. Like you just don't see that level of confidence in what people are building. So it's just a big deal, period. And to have R6 growing in a way that's where it's being recognized as it should be considered a tier 1 esport, like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
And as high school and even middle school programs start getting their feet underneath them, like collegiate's going to have its attention. It's time for attention. And anything that, if Ubisoft sees a worthy partner, you could see some real emphasis coming from Ubisoft in that front. Like they've been front runners in my mind, and how they've adapted their leagues so quickly to be friendly to like non-endemic organizations or to new organizations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we have managed to hit our hour, even though there is zero
We did.
Pro League information going on. So that's a good time to wrap this up. Did you have anything out there that you would like to say or talk about? More coronavirus advice?
Honestly, no. I don't have anything else.
All right. Well, for anyone else who tags along with some of my other podcasts, the Summoning Hour is going to be going through a pretty long series of content from my trip to the Collegiate Esports Expo. I would love if you would check it out. One of the things will actually be my talk that I did, which was the origin story of that podcast, the Summoning Hour, which was a lot of fun to do. Met a whole bunch of people, and so there's going to be a number of interview series coming out where I got to interview a colonel in the U.S. Army. He's like the highest ranking recruitment officer. So I got to talk to him about why the U.S. Army is interested in esports, which was really cool to hear. He's actually really involved, which is awesome to hear. But then also some other organizations and a lot from the students who actually helped put on the Collegiate Esports Expo, which was exceptional to see. Just absolutely stellar to see these students really put together a quality production like this. So you can look forward to that content coming out over the next several weeks. It's going to be, I might even have enough content where I do 2 episodes in a week. So that would be great to do for a few weeks. So that's pretty cool. Otherwise, look for another Check Your Six podcasts and with updates in your collegiate leagues and any other roster or challenger league and pro league news for the next 2 weeks. That's it for me. Thanks again for joining me, Syntax. It's great to see you
guys.
Both of us being upright and not sick as
not
dog.
Dying.
Dying. I'm going to enjoy my quarantine, and I will talk to you later. Take it easy.